So follow up last week talking about the HCI, the hype cycle. This week I'm going to talk about the total cost of ownership about the private cloud and public cloud. Actually, this topic may be quite related because a lot of people think about HCI equals to private cloud. Actually, it's not, because private cloud consists a lot of the elements. Of course, one of the key elements is the hyperconverged, the HCI, and it contributes the core technology to build your own private cloud because they centralize all the compute, network, and storage resources in the same box or same cluster of the server so that you can build your private cloud easily. So this week, when I talk about the total cost of ownership about private cloud and public cloud, a lot of people will be confused about there will be a hybrid cloud. What is hybrid cloud? So why I just compare about private cloud and public cloud, but not hybrid cloud? So I want to give you some concept first before we move on to the topic today. When I do this kind of comparison, I always make an analogy about the cloud. So I'm talking about the car, the vehicle. So here you see already a private car, a private vehicle that you own. Actually, you can drive anytime, anywhere. This is your own resources. You can share with your wife, you can share with your kids, you can share with your friend or dedicated colleagues, or up to you because this is your own resources. A public car, what does it mean? Maybe a car rental company. They buy a lot of the cars and then they can rent to you with a special terms and conditions. So you can use this car with a certain contract. Of course, the cost will be a little bit cheaper, but the service may be a little bit different. So you have what we call the private car concept and the public car concept. And what is hybrid mode? Hybrid mode means it's not a car for two purposes. That means you can access these two platforms anytime, anywhere, based on your own need. So sometimes you can drive your private car because you go to some private party or personal need or whatever. Sometimes you want to use the public car maybe for business purpose or maybe some other purpose. Maybe a long journey, long trip, then you better use a public car because you don't want to use your private car. So this is a very important concept. So no matter how, you need to have your public car or private car in use. That means whether your company need to deploy a private cloud or a public cloud. So when we have this concept, then we come to the justification why we need to compare these two things, the public cloud and the private cloud. When we compare this, first of all, we need to build the business model. So how we can compare this? So before we build the business model, we need to understand the primary difference between a private cloud and a public cloud. Normally, the public cloud concept already explained. So it's a publicly shared virtualized resources. It can support multiple customers. They support internet connectivity, so all the users can connect anytime. And of course, because this is a public cloud, in terms of the security and the confidential information is less secure comparing to a private cloud. So when we talk about private cloud, it's a privately shared resources, just like the car concept that I share with you. This is your own resources. You can decide how to use it. So normally the car may not be 100% utilized, but of course, based on your own need, you can share to your wife, you can share to your kids, and then up to your supervision. It's a cluster of dedicated customers can use these resources. And of course, in terms of the connectivity, we can over internet or private network or some of the dark fiber to connect all the private cloud together. And of course, it's very secure and confidential information in the core system. So this is the fundamental difference. So pros and cons, yes or no. So based on your need, based on your business model, then you can decide which infrastructure that you can build and meet your requirement. Of course, maybe finally you can come to the hybrid mode. That means you need to have a public cloud infrastructure to serve you, and at the same time, you need to build your private cloud. So here, when we come to a comparison, So normally I will talk to my customer and recommend them, you need to build your own model to compare which particular cloud is best for you. Normally, I will recommend them, okay, to have a scoring factors and have a ratings. Scoring factors means which are your major consideration to define which kind of cloud you are going to use, and you put the ratings. Say, for example, if you find the cost is very important, so you said, okay, your scoring factor is, I need to calculate the total cost of ownership within a period, like 3 years, 5 years, or 7 years. And at the same time, you put the rating, say, oh, this is very important. So when I make a decision, the cost consideration will be more than 50%, even 70%, right? So you can make this. Some company, they may think the corporate security consideration in terms of their application, their data security is more important. So they may put the rating maybe 50%, and then the cost 30%, all up to you. And some of the company will think about the business continuity risk, some of the risk management concept. Say, if right now I put all my application and data in the public cloud, in case there's any issues, what happened? How can I continue to run my business? So this part, some of the company will put very high ratings. Some company may put very low ratings, all depending on the requirements. And finally, there's another consideration talking about the company financial guidelines. So some company, they have a very strict rules about the CAPEX and OPEX model. So in terms of like building an infrastructure, building an private cloud, they may not want to do it. So they may prefer OPEX model, go to the public cloud. But right now in the market, it's very flexible because a lot of the financial institutes, they can do some financing and convert the CAPEX model to OPEX model. So all this rating, you can base on your requirement and put the ratings. And after we define the business model, and I will give you some hints how to build your total cost of ownership. So when we build the total cost of ownership, you need, okay, to think about how many years for consideration when you set up your infra. So then you may make like the public cloud cost, how they charge you, and the private cloud cost. So first of all, you need to come to the concept, say, how many compute, network, and storage resources you need. So you can consult or your IT consultant and think about how much money you need to pay monthly or yearly for the public cloud infrastructure. And at the same time, what is the hardware, hyperconverged infra that you need to buy as a private cloud infra, private cloud cost. The second consideration in the TCO we need to think about is the support service, the manpower. So either it's a public cloud or a private cloud, you need to have a special support services, manpower to maintain, because a lot of professional knowledge you need to have. But in a private cloud, there may be an extra cost in terms of the hardware warranty and maintenance. So this part you must bear in mind and consider. The third point, point number 3, we are talking about the data backup and the security backup. When you build your infra, you need to think about your security. So in terms of the public cloud, you may need to buy extra security services and resources to secure your application and data. And also in terms of the data backup, you need to think about whether you need to have a on-prem data copy or database copy in your server, or you want to back up in another public cloud. All these costs you need to take into consideration in terms of how you back up your data, how you back up your application, no matter what infra, okay, that you are investing. And point number 4, when you build up the total cost of ownership, you need to think about the software license you have to use, especially in the public cloud, because normally right now when you build your own infrastructure, when you buy a hyperconverged, a lot of the functions and features already built in, because this is your own infra. I don't care about your bandwidth or whatever, right? But in the public cloud, it's totally different. They will charge you service by service. So you need to be very clear about the functions and features you need so that you know how much cost you pay in the public cloud. Sometimes, okay, the public cloud will charge you in terms of the data usage, the volume, the frequency, or whatever. So you need to make sure you understand every single point. In terms of the private cloud, I don't care. is your own infra. You buy already. You use whatever you want. So this is the part of the advantage of hyperconverged. And finally, in terms of the private cloud, there may be some extra costs in terms of the data center setup. That means you need some power, you need to space, you need to buy a rack. But of course, this is not huge money. And in terms of the running costs and also the bandwidth costs, so far I remember quite a number of the cloud service provider, they will charge you the bandwidth, how frequent you use to download the data or whatever. So this cost you need to consider. Of course, there will be some other costs when you try to compare to this model. Of course, I'm not going to list everything based on your company expectations, but I think these 5 points is good enough for you to compare about the cost when you select whether you go to the public cloud or you go to the private cloud in the initial stage. Sure, if your services, your IT requirement is very ad hoc and short term, no doubt public cloud is the best choice. And of course, a private cloud in terms of the mid to long run and also in terms of security, still okay, the preference of most of the enterprise. So this is the sharing this week. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.